Hi there, my name is Shari Vetsa. I am a researcher at the Hoops Vision Eye Center, and today I want to talk to you about how to web scrape, how to use Power Automate desktop, how to be able to extract information from Excel and extract information from the web. And I think that this exercise will be a great way in teaching the average non-coder how to use a drag and drop coding software and to be able to really save time when it comes to doing busy work such as manipulating data in Excel or extracting information from uh, websites online. So the first step is figuring out what type of issue will benefit with Power Automate. And so if you find yourself, so we found ourselves taking a bunch of numbers for each patient and having to input it into a calculator online. And then once the calculator runs, we take the results of the calculator and put it back in Excel. And we found that we had to do this for hundreds of patients. And so to be able to, anytime you have a repetitive action like that, you could absolutely automate it. And one of the softwares that I found when I was searching on how to do this, I found that Power Automate for desktop was very robust. I do have a Mac, so it's a little difficult that this only works on Windows, but there are applications that allow you to enable Windows on Mac if you want to use this on Mac. I know there are some other automate softwares out there, but I think that this one also had a lot of tutorials online, and and I will add to that tutorial. And I think it's really powerful and easy to use. And so let's start with the Excel file. So I'm going to pull up an Excel file. Let's see if I can screen share. Um, So here we have an Excel file with some patients. And so because we're at an eye institution, we are looking at each patient's eyes. So if this is the right eye or the left eye, and with either eye, there are lots of numbers associated. The specifics are not really important, but because of the task that we have at hand, that's why these are the numbers used. So K1, K2, sphere. So these are just all numbers that correlate to each patient. And so one thing that's really helpful is we're going to load this information into Power Automate. And so to do that, you need to label each column properly. And each column has to be unique. So you can't have uncorrected vision UCVA twice because each name is going to be a unique identifier for that column. So that's what we have here. This is going to be useful in the future. So now we're on to using Power Automate. I think we're ready for that. So the first thing to do is to open up Power Automate once you have it downloaded. I've created some flows here because I've been working, but here's how the Power Automate software looks like. You're going to want to start with a new flow. So let's name it. So once you open it, here's how it looks. Let me just make it smaller. Okay, so here's your main flow where you're going to be adding code. And then you're going to have, um, these are the actions that you can search up. So let's just say I want to automate some process. We're going to get into the details of this, but let's just say we want to launch Excel, right? So we can take this action and drag it into this main area. And for each action, the software is going to need a couple more information. So for instance, for launch Excel, so what type of, is there a specific document that needs to be launched? And it'll walk you through and it gives you a lot more things to mess around with. So we'll get into that. So now we can start. The first step is we want to be able to load the Excel file into Power Automate. And the way we do that is we can start by setting some variables. So you type in the action set variable. You break down into here. And okay, so what do you want this variable to be? So I want a variable that I can iterate through, so that can allow me to iterate through each patient row. So I'm going to call it row count, and I'm going to give it a value of, I want to be able to put this information that I'm extracting from online, I want to put after my patient data. So I'm going to put it, so I think I have 16 columns of patient data. So I'm going to put it at 20, let's say. Okay. And I want to set another variable, and it's going to be the column at which I should start inputting the data into Excel. So I'm going to say A, and I'm going to name this column. Okay. So once we have that, now we want to set a variable for the name of the Excel file. And so, because the software needs to know the file location of where your Excel file is to be able to read it and pull the information in locally. So we're going to call it Excel file path. So it's going to say Excel file path. And so now we need to get the file location. How do we do that? The easiest way to do that is you go to your Finder, go to Desktop, you right click on the file that you want, and you click Properties. Once you click Properties, you can see that the location is given by location : you copy this, and then you go back to here, but that's not enough. You also need to put the name of the file. So the name of the file is this. The way I get that really quickly, they say show more options, rename, but I don't actually rename it, copy it, put it here, and it's an Excel file, so it'll be XLSX. So now we have created a variable that names Excel file path with the file location that we want this software to pull this file data from. All right, so the next step is we want to launch Excel. And so we type in launch, put launch Excel here, and you want to launch Excel with the blank document. And it's going to actually be, we want to tell it which document to open. So we want it to open the file, which we have set the variable as Excel file path. So file path. Or actually, you don't even have to type it in like that. You can click on this button that allows you to access all the available variables. Let's copy this one, and that's it. Create save. So now we have, if we run this workflow through, we have launched the correct file. Then we want to read that file. So we're going to type in read from, put in read from Excel worksheet. We have launch Excel has stored that instance of Excel into Excel instance. And so we want it to read from that. And we want to retrieve all available values from the worksheet. If you're going to have a Excel sheet of lots of rows and lots of columns, you want it to get everything. So the next thing we want to do is to be able to launch Google Chrome. So we want to launch the website that we want to be able to put information into and extract information. So you're going to type in launch new Chrome, Firefox, whatever browser you want to use, but I'm comfortable using Chrome. So it'll ask you to launch a new instance. And so what specifically should I launch? So I've just pulled it up. I'm going to copy it and put it here and save. So now we've made some variables, launched Excel, read the Excel worksheet so that we could have the values in Excel in a variable inside Power Automate called Excel data, launched Chrome. And the next thing to do is we need to actually navigate to the form. So let me show you what I mean. So when I type in the link, we need to press a couple buttons before we actually get to the calculator. We need to hit I accept. Then we need to hit one of these options. I'm going to hit the one in the top left, and then we get the calculator. So I'm trying to describe this to you guys because you might have another website that doesn't necessarily pull up to the form right away, and you might have to interface with the UI before you get to the form or get to where you need to go. And Power Automate can handle this. And so the way it does that is we need to remember what those clicks were. So that we had one, we had to hit I accept, at least in this instance, and then we had to hit one of the options. The option was prior myopic uh, surgery. So we can go to our Power Automate. All right, so we'll go here, and we need to use this button called the recorder. So it's able to capture the steps of your automation, right? So let's see how this works. So we click it, and so right now, it pulls up the recorder. So we're going to hit record. And then now anything I do, any clicks that I make, it's going to record that. And so the first click I'm going to do is I'm going to, you see how it highlights? Okay, so this button, if I click on it, then it's going to show up in the record action. So watch. And I click I accept, and it's going to record that. And then let's move this over. And the next thing I want to click is I want to click this one, prior myopic LASIK PRK. Right, so those are the two clicks. That's it. That's all I want to do for now. And I'm going to hit done. So now it'll bring it back here, and it's going to throw all of those recorded actions into my flow. So this is just text. You can get rid of it. It's not important. We don't want to launch Chrome twice, so we can get rid of that. And so it says here, click link on web page and then press button on web page. So we've done a couple of steps. It's always good practice to, whenever you are coding, to do a little bit and then run it. Make sure nothing breaks, and then add a little bit and then do it again. If you add a bunch of steps and then you made some mistakes, every time you run, you're not going to know where the mistake was. So you always want to, this is very good practice when it comes to debugging of any sort. So first I will save this, and let's walk through everything we've achieved so far. So I'm going to turn on the debugger just so we can walk through what's happening every single time. So the way you turn on a debugger is you're going to click to the left of these numbers. So let's just say I put the debugger here. When you hit run, the program will go normally until it gets to the line with the button, and then it'll stop. And then you can start hitting run next action so you can iteratively go through. If you don't put the debugger button on, it's just going to go through all the way. If there's an error, it'll throw an error. So let's see what I mean. So first, let's put the debugger right over there on line 3. We hit run. It'll automatically do 1, 2, 3, right? And it'll stop here because I told it to stop. So right now we've created 3 variables, or we've created 2. And we're going to hit run next action. So now we have told it what the file path was. And so now let's see if it works. And it's going to launch Excel, and it's going to launch this specific Excel file. Okay, so let's see if it was able to do that. It has opened the right file. Do you see? Okay, so now we're not going to touch this because it needs it to work. And the next step is to read from Excel worksheet. It has stored all the data inside this Excel file into Excel data. You can see how here Excel data has populated with 16 rows with our patients and a bunch of columns. Now it's going to load Chrome. Okay, and it came to the page that we just talked about. And so I'm going to put this in the corner here just so you can see what I'm doing. Wish I had more screens. Let's go back here. Let's close this. Let's see. Okay, I know this is tough. This is going to be smaller. It's hard to see everything. All right, so now I want it to just run the next step. And the next step should be to hit I accept. So do you see how it selects it? So now we move on. And we have one last click of hitting prior myopic LASIK. So do you see how it's pulled up to what we needed to? Okay. So that means that all of the code that we put in so far works. All right, so now we can get into filling out the actual form. Now, if we look at the form here, this form is used to determine what lens power should be administered to the patient, given a series of variables. These are a lot of variables, and for the purpose of this tutorial, it's not necessary for me to show you how I have automated the entire form. But we'll go through a couple, and then I will fast forward through all of the other ones so that we could actually see results rather than just putting in one value. So let's take the example of doctor name, right? So for doctor name, this form was made with HTML, I think. And so you can see if we right click and hit inspect that doctor name has a unique ID. So let's type in doctor. Now let's see. Okay, so you do see here how this text box has unique name, has a unique identifier, and it's labeled as a variable inside HTML as txt doctor name. And so what we're going to try to do is identify all of these unique IDs to these text field boxes, identify the unique IDs for the text boxes inside Excel, and try to correlate them. So that was just a demonstration of what I was trying to do. But if you go here, we're going to use the same thing. We're going to use our recording software, and it'll record the clicks that need to be done that a person would otherwise do, but we're going to automate with Power Automate. So we're going to hit record again. And we're going to hit record here. And so we're going to act as if we're going to fill out this form. So doctor name, let's say, you know, Shari. That's okay. Next one, patient name. Taking a little time to load. Okay, so do you see how I clicked it multiple times and it recorded that? You can get rid of those later. So let's put, patient name, and then let's put and let's put, let's see, let's put IOL model, and let's put the target reference, just a variable that this calculator takes. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for now. It's going to hit done. All of this has been recorded inside, and we need to remove some things. So first, so one thing that happened is that it inserted all of these actions in where I did not want it to go. And so all you do is you select all of them. So we select using a shift or control, whatever one you want. And then we're going to move these guys. I'm gonna move it here. There you go. Again, this is just text. You can get rid of that. Text, you can get rid of that. We don't need to launch Chrome again. All right, so here's where we go. Populate a text field on the web page. So this step, it's going to find this ID of text doctor name and put in what I manually typed in as Shari Betsa. But we want this value to change for every patient. And the way we do that is we go click on the three dots, edit. And so we're going to change Shari Betsa to make it more dynamic. And the way you do that is we wanted to pull from Excel data. Before we do that, though, we needed to iterate through all 16 rows. And to do that, we need a for loop. So we're going to type in here for each. Now for each loop, and we're going to put it in right here. All right, so what is it going to iterate through? It's going to iterate through Excel data. We want it to iterate through the Excel data table for each row. So we hit select, and it's going to be labeled as a new variable called current item. All right, so now we need to take this guy, and then move it at the end so it includes all of these. There you go. So it's going to do this for all of the rows inside the Excel file because we want to run the calculator on each patient's variables. So we're in for each, right? We're going to run through each row. We're going to start with the doctor name. And so let's look at our Excel file here. An Excel file, doctor name is given by column L. This is the heading of cataract surgeon. These patients were operated on by surgeon with initials MM. Most important is that we need to get the exact spelling of the column name. So now we know it's cat surgeon or cataract surgeon. And so we're going to go here, click on 3 dots, hit edit, and don't change that. We don't mess with that. We don't mess with it. Go here, and we're going to type in current item. I think you put in parentheses, put in bracket, and the bracket in quotes, actually single quotes, you're going to put in, I'm going to put in the cataract surgeon column heading. So yeah, the percent signs are just the syntax of this software. Current item is a variable that we're looking at. And we want to look at the column heading of cataract surgeon. So we're going to hit save. Okay, so now every time it's going to not put in a static answer of Charlie Vets every time, but it's going to pull in from that column heading what value is in that row. So as I was filling this out, one thing that is important to make sure you select is when you're reading from the Excel worksheet. Right now, if you look at the Excel data, let's pull it up. I double clicked it. You just see that the column headings, there's just column 1, 2, 3, 4, and row 0 is actually what we want is our actual column headers. We want row 0 to be the column headings. And the way we change that is we go to read from Excel worksheet, hit edit, go to advanced, change the first line of the range to be included as the column names. So once we save that, it should be able to correlate the name that you are of the column heading that you are asking it to pull from. So let's actually, now that we've done this a little bit, do you see how I have changed each value so that it's not something hard-coded of A or, 0. It's going to go through each Excel row, and at each row, it's going to find what value comes under that column heading so we can watch it work. So right now I put my debugging variable here because we've already proved that all of this code above works. Every time you run this code and you're going to be debugging multiple times, you always want to make sure that your source file, every time you launch Excel, it opens it, right? You want to close out of that and you want to close out of this website because you don't want to confuse the software by having the windows that you want to open already opened up. Because then, for instance, for the Excel file, it'll open up a new instance in which it's only read-only. So then you can't actually write data into it. So you just want to X out of this, X out of that, and we're going to hit run. Okay, so you see how it has read the Excel file. It's launched the Chrome. It's going to click on I accept right now. It's going to click on prior myopic. And now we have entered our for loop. And we're going to wait at populating the text field. So we're going to hit run next action. And so here, do you see how it pulled? It pulled from whatever was in the Excel file and we listed as MM for that patient, and it put it in here. The same thing. It's going to show how it pulls the patient name, pulls the eye, pulls the model, and it's going to, you can even put in numbers. So you want this software to fill out this form as fast as possible. And the way to do that is you can change this feature called emulated typing. So I'm going to click on the three dots. So first, I'm debugging right now, so you want to stop it because we've already been able to show how it works. Stop that, go over here, hit edit. And so you can start opening up advanced. If you look into advanced, right now, it's populating the text using physical keystrokes. It's acting as if a person is typing in the values. For some websites, that might be useful, but for this form, it's pretty basic enough. I don't need that. I can just have it copy and paste the text really quickly. So that will save some time. I don't want it to emulate typing because typing takes time. I'd rather just quickly put in information. And I don't want to wait for the page to load. The reason is that this calculator is not going to change if I put in a value. The only moment where this web page is going to change is when I hit calculate. So that's another way in which you can shave off some time. And so I will, I've highlighted these two features, and once I've put in all the values, I'll show you how it can be useful compared to the other one, which takes its time. All right, so now you can see that I have basically did the same thing for all of these values. There is a corresponding Excel column, and I linked the name of this text field to the name of the column heading in Excel. So did all of that. I did all of it without emulated typing because that takes too long. And so I did all of that, and I used the web recorder again, right? We were familiar with that, to be able to record my action of hitting calculate. Okay, so let's see if this does what we want it to do. So what do? We have to always Excel out of this. We can X out of this and go. So you can watch it. It will speed through, so you might miss it. It's pulled up Excel. It's going to open Chrome. It's going to click through. Clicks that, clicks prior, and look how fast it goes. Putting in all the data. And so now I've stopped it here. And so let's see what happens when we hit run next action. It hits calculate, and the calculator gives me some values. So now the next section is going to talk through how I take these values from online and write it back into the Excel. Okay, so now we are going to learn how to extract this information from the web page and put it into Excel. And the way you do that, extract data here. Okay, so read what it says. Bringing an actual web browser window to the foreground, it'll activate the live web helper. So we're going to click on the file or the website. And you see how we have an extraction preview. So I want to be able to get all of these values, all of them. And so the way I'll teach it is I'm going to select every data cell that I need. And to do that, you're going to right click. So let's just say we go to Shamus, right? In the Shamus, I'm going to right click. And when right click comes up, when you right click, it'll give you a drop down menu. And you want to click extract element value. You only want it to extract the actual text of 20.81. You don't want anything else. So you can hit text, and there you go. It shows up in your extraction preview. And it comes up in this like dotted green line. So let's add some more. So we're going to right click this Haggis value. Right click again, extract element. And so now it predicts that, like, okay, you want to get all of this data. However, just because of how this calculator is, it's not able to pick up that I would also want these values. So I'm going to right click here, extract element value. So now what's going to happen is because it thought that all I wanted was this, but then I wanted this, it went back to not predicting. And so you have to manually select all these guys. So I'll do right click Galilei. You get the hang of it. And then you hit finish. I'm going to click through everything else. So once you have extracted all the information you wanted, it'll tell you in what form. And this is great. I want it to be in a 5-column data row because for each patient row, I want it to have a results row. That way it can correlate. I have 16 rows of patient information and 16 rows of calculations. I don't really touch timeout or store data mode. And then I hit save. Okay. So let me finish doing that for everything else. All right. So now we can write to Excel. We're going to pull up that action, write to Excel. Okay, put it here. What Excel instance do I want to write into? The one that I have open, which is just Excel instance. The value to write, you're going to click on the X. You're going to do data from calculator. And now you're going to tell it where you want to put it at. We want to automate this completely. So we wouldn't say currently active cell. We would say on specified cell. We've already made variables named for this. So the column, you'd hit the variable of just column. And then for row, you would hit the variable row count. Okay, so now that we have all that done, we're telling it where it should go. And so once we finish this, we don't want this software to keep writing into the same row. We want to increase row count by 1 every time we go through one patient. And so we're going to put in the action of increase variable, and we're going to increase the variable of row count. And 1 is good. Okay. And the last thing is, if we look back here, we want to rerun this calculator. And so we have to hit this button called reset form. That will bring us to this page. And so I will show you, you just use the same thing, hit record, you record that action of hitting the reset form button. So let me just pull that in from this other program. All right, you want to make sure it's ordered right. Doesn't really matter, I guess, here. Okay, so one thing I have added, I added a weight. I added a weight between calculate and data from calculator. And the reason why I did that, so first off, weight is just tells a program to literally do nothing for the amount of time that you specify. So I'm going to put it in right after calculate. And the reason I do that, just put 2 seconds, is I understand that the software knows that, oh, don't move on to the next action until the web page has finished loading. But sometimes it messes up, and I don't really want to wait for that mess up to happen. So instead, I'm just going to build a wait of 2 seconds. That way, when you hit calculate and it's taking all those values, maybe, it might take more time in some instances over others, or the internet might be spotty. Whatever the case, for my project, I've figured out that 2 seconds is enough for any loading to finish. And so now I'm confident that I'm not going to extract data that doesn't exist. It's going to calculate, the values are going to show up in the 2 seconds, and then it's going to extract. So that is a helpful tip. I also put a wait after the reset form, just again, for the same reasons. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go here. Doesn't really matter if you put it at the end or at the beginning. For me, it just makes sense to put in the front. Okay, because it's a loop. It loops back, so it wraps around. And the last thing, once you're done with this Excel, with this flow, you can close your web browser. So, okay. So now we just have to close the web browser so that once you're done with the program, you're done with the program. Some tutorials will say close the Excel instance. I recommend do not do that because you need to be able to hit save before you close out. And if you just run this program overnight and you collect all the information and then you hit close and it doesn't save, that's a waste of time. So I would just launch Excel in the beginning and just leave it open, get your data, save, and then you can close. So now that we basically finished all of the aspects um, of what we want out of this program. So let's start from the beginning. Let's just summarize everything. Okay, so it's opened up Excel. It's going to read in that data, launch Chrome, then it's going to click through the calculator, input the data. All right, it's going to wait for my input. So because that's where I put the debugger, and I'm going to hit calculate. I'm going to wait 2 seconds. I'm going to extract the data from the web page, and then I'm going to write to Excel. Okay, let's just check and see if that actually happened. Do you see how at column A, row 20, you actually have the data that I told it to pull um, over here? And so you can increase your row count by 1, hit the reset form, and cycle through. It's going to keep going through. And so right now, I'm going to let it run for a couple cycles because I just want to show you how powerful this is. So we're going to hit run. It's going to go through. So over here, it's just going through manually. You can just sit and watch it put in all the data. It's going to collect the information and calculate over here. It's reset the form and it's already going. I'm gonna run through it one more time. It's going to collect this information. All right, so let's pause it for now. Let's go here, pause. So we stopped it, and you can see here that it's inputting the data. And then all you have to do is create a new column. And for, let's say, create a new column over here. Shamus calculation. Take these numbers, put it here, and there you go. Now you've learned how to uh, take data from Excel, put it into a web form, and then take data from a web form and put it into Excel. And this can be a really quick way of shaving off lots of hours, especially when you need to go through large data sets. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll provide my email uh, in the description of the video. Thanks so much for listening.